Fer asked me before we started recording this episode, Anna, you have experiences like that? And I was like, my whole life is like that, Fer. People don't know what I'm saying, but in my brain, it's perfectly
It
clear.
sounds good. Yeah. Oh, I'm just making myself some chamomile tea. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? Like, you guys don't drink té de manzanilla or what? And he's like, chamomile.
It's because it's so hard to live in two worlds. I always started my videos back on the days, hola mis amores. I always say that phrase. And now my husband makes fun of me with that phrase.
I don't know if you heard the word ka.
Ka? No. Like,
Ka.
oh?
It's like ka.
Huh?
I'm like,
Huh?
ka.
What the heck is that?
Hi everyone. So today we're gonna talk about when you say a word because you're thinking in another language. Because Ana and I were both like, we think in Spanish, but we sometimes talk in English, and then we think that if we say a word because it makes sense in Spanish, it might not, make a lot of sense in English. So today we have a case right here. It says, I've lived in an English-speaking country since I was 10, so my accent is almost gone. And people usually assume I'm a native speaker until I randomly misuse a word. My cat, it's because the story is kind of crazy. My cat passed away yesterday, and I was absolutely devastated. Took the day off, buried her under her favorite bench, cried my eyes out. My sister brought me a homemade meal, but I could barely eat, so I'd save it for later. Totally normal, right? Fast forward to today, I'm back at work, still puffy-eyed, heating up my lunch when a coworker asks what I'm having. Through my grief-fogged brain, I respond, the remains from yesterday. She looked horrified, but I figured, whatever, maybe she just hates leftovers. Turns out she thought I meant I ate my cat.
Remains.
I know, the cat remains, right? So HR got involved. Apparently my colleagues would prefer if I didn't eat house pets in the break room. So what he's saying is like, he was trying to say leftovers and said remains instead of leftovers, and now people think that he slow cooked his cat and
my God.
ate the cat. Yeah. That is crazy.
It is crazy,
I don't know.
but it's very real, and that happens very often. Fer asked me before we started recording this episode, Anna, you have experiences like that? And I was like, my whole life is like that, Fer. People don't know what I'm saying, but in my brain, it's perfectly clear.
It sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's funny.
100%. I feel like sometimes I say things or like even like mispronounce words. For example, there's a word that okay, so chamomile, manzanilla, té de manzanilla, right?
Que no se decía chamomile.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm
so
like,
one day
chamomile, what is that?
So one day I was just like in the apartment, and my boyfriend came in, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just making myself some chamomile tea. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? Like, you guys don't drink té de manzanilla or what? And he's like, chamomile. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, there's a bunch of words that I mispronounce. Or sometimes, like, he's saying, like, I say something that to me it makes sense because I think of it in Spanish. And it's like, no, I mean, I didn't say anything wrong. But then people start looking at me like, what?
I know that look. I know that look when I go to events.
Like, okay.
Yes. When I'm at events and I'm talking to people, I know that look when they start looking at me, like they open their eyes bigger and they just stare at me like Like if I'm a piece in a museum, I'm like, they are lost. They don't know what I'm saying. And I just
Uh-huh.
change the conversation and I just say, I was great meeting you. And I start walking away. No, but just imagine, Fer. And for those who don't know, that are new here in either our YouTube channel or the podcast platforms, Fer and I, we both are Mexicans, right? Fer is one of those kids that was raised in the border. So I think you are like very familiarizada with the language, right? Or I thought you were, but I am new in the language. I've been living in the US for almost 20 years, so I don't have an excuse anymore. But even if you live here this long, when you have an accent, you have an accent. And I learned Spanish before, it's my native language. So it's very hard. But you know what, Fer? Just imagine if it's hard to say the words correct and then in the excitement of a conversation or in his case like lost his cat, it's even worse. Like he was going through like really hard moment and I'm not gonna be thinking on if I'm translating the right word or no. It's weird and it's so sad
No,
and it's
no.
yeah.
Uh, 100%. And it's just like, I think in this case, it was like both his brain went off, or I don't know what, but he couldn't, like if that's not like your native language, if that's not like your first language, you probably think in another language. Um, I'm guessing, I don't know if it's Spanish here, right? Because he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say which is his first language. But if you say remains are restos in
I
Spanish.
understand
So,
it.
aha,
It makes
aha.
sense
To
to
me,
me.
no, totally. And then to me, like when I first read it, I was like, oh, the remains for yesterday. I was
Yeah.
like, los restos de ayer. Well,
Yeah.
fine. But I
Yeah.
mean, I get it. Like, it's just like, yeah, you don't say that in English. But to him was like perfectly okay. It kind of like made sense. But yeah, then again, if when you're grieving, then yeah, the brain doesn't work that well. And it kind of reminded me of one time, Anita.
Uh-huh.
We were at this station in Telemundo when I used to work over there in El Paso. And one of my coworkers, she precisely, her cat had died. And she's like this, like crazy cat lady, like, and I say this in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
She loves cats, she loves animals, she has a bunch of cats, and one of her cats died, and she was like inconsolable, like she was crying. She got to the station and she had like her eyes all puffy, and like that was like she was just like crying, and everybody was like, no, it's okay, la la la, don't worry, la la la. And then that day, I remember I was leaving the station, and before that, there was a shooting inside the Ciudad Juarez airport, which is,
Mm.
like the city next to El Paso on the
Uh-huh.
Mexican side. And it happened, like, this lady's ex boyfriend happened to be at the airport.
Oh wow.
I know, but she went like it was like chaos, and it was almost like kind of like if you were kind of like picture the TV series The Office,
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like it was almost like funny because she was
Uh-huh.
crying about the cat, and she was like, pero mi ex está en el aeropuerto, and like running all around, and then she would cry, and then it was time to for the newscast to go on air, and everybody was like, you have to go to the studio, and she was like, pero mi ex que no sé qué, and then the cat, and it was like so funny. And I don't know, it kind of like made me this
The
situation
story.
made me, yeah, made me think of about that. Like she wasn't thinking straight because her ex was at the place where a shooting just happened, and then the cat died, and she had to work, and it was like all of
Too
these
much
things
going
all
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was comical, like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same happened when we tried to translate words to Spanish, right? Because, for example, I've been living here for so long, Fer, that I don't remember some of the words in Spanish because we don't use them too often. And sometimes my son asked me, like, Mom, how do you say this? And I had to think it twice. And even it's so embarrassing and ridiculous, but I've been one of those saying instead of emocionada, because in English you say excited. I'm very excited.
Uh-huh.
And then you translate the word literally and you say excitada. And of course,
Yeah.
excitada in Spanish has a completely different meaning. And I used to
Exactly.
criticize people that use the word like that. I was like, oh, I can't believe they don't know the difference. And if you are a Spanish native, I can't believe that you can say
You
the
should
word
know.
right. And I caught myself once saying, estoy bien excitada. And I was like, oh, hell, it doesn't go. It doesn't
I
go like that.
know. Oh my
So
God.
it's
Yes.
the same thing. So I feel like it's the language, but also depending the situation you are at. I had arguments in the past with my husband. He doesn't speak Spanish, so the arguments were in English. And I swear, I said words that in my head had a meaning. And he got so mad. And I was like, I don't know why he's mad, like that mad. And he would come to me and he would be like, it's because you say this and this and this. And I was like, no, I was just saying this and that. So it is so hard to not just translate, but also to use the right word at the right moment with the right tone. And but yeah, yo destruyo el idioma. Like, yes, you
Oh
guys
no.
can blame me for that. Like, I just destroy the beautiful words de
English
la
language.
el English language y también de la Real Academia Española. It's because it's so hard
Yeah.
to live in two worlds. And just imagine there
Exactly.
is people that speak even three languages. I have a friend that she married. She's Mexican. She
Mm-hmm.
married a French guy, and they live here in the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. So their kids speak English, Spanish, and French. And I'm like, how do you do it? Like, if with two languages in my house, I go crazy. I cannot imagine like speaking, but it's so amazing and so beautiful. And I
It
wish I
is.
could know more languages than English and Spanish.
I know it's crazy. Like my boyfriend speaks like 5 languages, and I'm like,
Really?
how? Yeah, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I don't get it, because he lived in Italy for almost 2 years, so he knows
Uh-huh.
Italian. He knows a little bit of French. He knows Portuguese, Spanish, and English.
Mm.
And I'm like, how? Like, it's kind of crazy. And speaking about that, I remember when I came to live here in DC.
Uh-huh.
So in El Paso, we have, yeah, it's like a border city in Texas, but you have a lot of people that speak Spanish, right? So if you don't know how to say something in English or vice versa in Spanish, like everybody understands because it's una mezcla. So we're all like pochos in a way. Um, but here, when I came here, of course, you listen, like you hear a lot of English and just English. Not everybody here is gonna like talk to you in Spanish, or you can't assume that everybody understands or knows Spanish. So I remember we were at one of my boyfriend's friends. He was having his birthday, and then this group of friends um, came to where we're sitting at, and they were all drunk, right? And my boyfriend and another friend were talking to this girl who was super drunk, and I was just like trying to listen to. I couldn't like engage in the conversation because I was like sitting right here and they were like kind of like in front of me, right? And I hear that my boyfriend tells the girl like, get out of here. And I was like so freaking pissed, because I was like, how do you dare to
Uh-huh.
tell a girl, a lady, a female, like, get out of here? I would have punched you in the face. If you tell me como que, to me, I
Uh-huh.
translate that as lárgate, right?
Uh-huh.
And I would have been like, oh, no, 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 fuck no, you know? And I got so freaking pissed. And he was like, why are you upset? What happened? What did I do? And I'm like, you just told this girl like, get out of here, like, really? And he's like, yeah, but, and I'm
Is
like,
a
and
slang
I
or
also, yeah, and I also
mm-hmm.
noticed that the girl was like, ha ha ha, whatever, and she left, like totally
Uh-huh.
normal. But to me, it was kind of like making ahí como un shock, Because I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, dude, like, this guy just told you, like, to que te largues, and you were like, ha, 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 whatever. Like, to me, it translated in that way, right?
Different. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I kind of, like, started talking to my boyfriend, and he was like, no, that's, like, totally normal. Like, in English, it's not offensive. And I'm like,
It's
well.
like stop it, right? It's like stop it. It's kind
Yeah.
of, yeah. So like a word that my son uses a lot, Caleb, is like dude. And then he
Uh-huh.
calls me dude. And even my husband, I remember the first years of our marriage was a mess. I swear it was a mess because it's like starting a relationship with someone with a different culture. Someone like I was divorced and I was single for 9 years. So many elements that made it
Yeah.
hard, but then add the language barrier.
Oh
And
my
then I
God. Yeah.
remember one time he started calling me dude. And he will say stuff like, oh, we're gonna get late. Hurry up, dude. And I will get so mad because for me,
Oh my
dude
God.
is like compa, like way
Right.
or compa. Like I wouldn't tell way to my husband. I call way my friends, my brothers. ¿Qué onda, way? But no, my husband. My husband is in a different platform in my life. Like it's like calling way my mom.
Right.
And for me, dude had a meaning. Like, it's the way you talk to another friend. And I will get so mad at him. And I'm like, I'm not dude. And I'm not one of your friends. You don't call me like that. And then he learned the lesson and he was like, oh, sorry. Like, I never thought it was something with that meaning. And I was like, it means
Right.
that to me. So he stopped doing that. And now my son, who is 15, sometimes I'm like, Caleb, pick up the plate, or Caleb, do this. And he's like, chill out, dude. And I'm like,
What?
it, yes, I
Uh-huh.
get so mad because my son is not gonna call me dude, but he's like, don't get mad, mom. It's a very common word that we use. And I'm like, no, you don't use that word with mom. Use it with someone else. But yeah, there is
But
so
not
hard.
me.
But no, me. But it's so hard to understand, not use the words and to learn the language, but also to adapt the language to the culture, right? Like it's very
Exactly.
hard, very hard.
Exactly. No, totally. I feel like another word that's also like very similar to dude is bro.
Uh-huh, el
Like
bro,
I have
bro.
like girlfriends that are like
Uh-huh.
bro, and I'm like,
How about your bro?
what? No, I mean, I don't
I'm your
mind.
sis, no your
I
bro.
know. I know it's
Your
crazy, but it's like
sissy.
your sis, I know. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't come out like naturally to me because I like you don't say that in Spanish. No es como hermano every. Well, there's people that say hermano, hermana, hermani, but not like yeah, it's not like a common thing to go and say like hermano a una mujer, which
Yeah,
bro literally
yeah.
means that
Like
like bro.
hermano. Yeah,
Uh-huh. So I
yeah.
guess like we're always like kind of like thinking in
Adapting.
Spanish
Yeah.
and adapting all that in Spanish. And for us, it doesn't sound like cool or normal in Spanish. So that's why we're like, I'm not going to call you bro. It kind of like
Yeah.
sounds weird.
Yeah.
There's
And
another one. No,
uh-huh.
tell me.
Oh, there is a word that got me in trouble with my husband for many years because he can understand it. And those who have been following me for a long time, they are gonna understand what I'm talking about. So I have this thing that I call everybody amor, love. You notice that, right? Even I always started my videos back on the days, hola mis amores. I always say that phrase. And now my husband makes fun of me with that phrase. But before, he got me in a lot of trouble. But I just got used to using that word because we used to meet so many people per day when I was working in radio and TV. And I would pick up the phones. So this is how it works in a radio cabin. We had a morning show. So when we had like questions that we asked to the audience, we will have people calling the radio station, and we had like 6, 9 lines, like phone lines. So I was the phone screener, and I would pick up the line. I didn't have time to say, hi, how are you? What's your name? Like, no time for anything. We just had to prep the people to go on air to give their opinion on whatever topic we were talking about. So I learned this from the producer we had back on the days. His name is Juanito, and he was so lovely and so good on answering the phones and screening the calls. So he will always pick up the phone and say, "Hola, mami. Yes, so what do you think about the topic?" And he will prep the person. So I was like, but I cannot say mommy. And I hate the word puppy. So I was like, I can say mommy or puppy. So I need to pick a word. So I started calling everybody love. And I was like, and it applies for men and female. So I'm going to go for it. So, and I started doing that. And just imagine doing that for 8 years. It's like part of your vocabulary now. So yeah, I will be like, hi, love. Like, so what do you think about the topic? Okay, you're going to go on air and be prepared, blah, blah, blah. And then when I started meeting people on the streets, I will do the same. I would say, hola, amor, because I couldn't remember all the names, Fer. And I felt bad not having their names on top of my head. And then I brought it to my personal life, and I started calling my friends love, like everybody. And I really mean that word. Like for me, it's like, I hug you and I hug you, no F you, okay? I hug you. I need to pay attention how I say words. So for me, it's like a welcoming word with love, like that's why I call people love. My husband met me and it was not a big deal. It was like, oh, whatever. She's very lovely. But we got to a point where he was like, it's because you call everybody love. And I'm like, and what's wrong with that? Pero en español, I call them amor. And, like couples have, I don't know how you call your husband, your boyfriend, if you guys call each other like with a nickname.
It's more like, no, it's
like
more like
babe or
babe,
honey.
baby. Yeah.
So I had a great idea of calling my now husband love, pero en inglés porque él es gringo. So I called everybody else amor, pero a él le decía love.
Love.
And one day, I guess he had so much on his brain that he needed to throw up. He told me, and I'm done with your love word. You call everybody amor, and you think that I'm going to feel special because you call me love. And I was like, yes, because everybody is amor, but you are love in English. It has a different meaning. And in his head, he was like, what the heck is she talking about?
What
it's the same word. But for me, no, like you switching the language had a different meaning. So now I still call people love. But he gets mad if I call him love. And I still don't have a nickname for him. So you guys want to help me? How can I call my husband?
Yes, please help us out. Help Anna. Help Anna out here to pick up a nickname. Cause
yes,
I totally understand. And also, I feel like in Latin America, it's very common to have people, like, even when you go to a restaurant, especially like, I don't know if you've ever been to Colombia, but if you go to a restaurant in Colombia, it's like, hola mi vida, que te ofrezco mi corazón. O sea, like, it's just like all these words that you won't hear here in the US. Like, you don't go to a coffee shop or a restaurant and the people there greet you like, hi, my love, my baby, how are you, sweetheart, blah, 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 blah. And no,
just Latinos,
over there, it's like,
right?
It's very common, like, for Latinos to be like, ay, mi amor, que te doy, que te ofrezco. It's just like that.
Even the kisses, like when I was single, like for me, it's very common. I don't know if I do it now because, it's so hard when you marry someone with a different culture. But I will hug people all the time. I love hugging people when I meet someone, and the kiss, one kiss. But I know when they are from Spain are 2 kisses. Like, I'm very used to those type of affection with friends. And even when you meet someone, hi, nice to meet you. And 2 kisses. Never in the mouth. I don't do that. But I do the 2 kisses. But I remember one time I was working with this brand, and the PR was a girl from Spain. And she came to me and, hey, Anna. But it was very natural. And we did the 2 kisses like nothing. And then she approached my husband because he was with me with the camera. And then she tried to kiss him. And he looked at me like all scared, like, should I? Shouldn't I? Like, why I'm kissing this girl? And she was
Uh-huh.
so ready with the two kisses. You should see my husband. He was like frozen, and he
Like
was
this.
yes, and he was like, and
Uh-huh.
then, but she knew, she was like, oh, don't worry, we do that in Spain all the time. But it was so
That's
funny and
crazy.
so awkward at the same time, Fere.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. And it's funny, like, I don't know. There's also things like slang that Latinos have adopted in English. I don't know if you heard the word "ka."
Ka? No, like,
Ka.
oh,
It's
ah,
like "ka."
huh?
I'm like
Huh?
"ka."
What the heck is
I
that?
know. It's basically like CUH, "ka."
CUH. Ka? No, what does
Uh-huh.
it mean, Fer?
Cousin.
I'm so behind. What?
Cousin. Like
Oh,
primo.
cousin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So I think it's more used like in like California, Latinos in
Uh-huh.
California, also like Texas, but I know that they would say like "ka." And I remember the first time I heard that word, I was dating a firefighter over there in El Paso, and he was from California, and he would make fun of that word, and he was like joking around, and he would say like whatever phrase, and he would end up like "ka." And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't understand what the "ka"
And you were
is.
like, salud.
I was
Bless
like, I
you.
don't understand. Like it kind of like I at first I thought it was like, I don't know, maybe he's just like using like a onomatopeya or like making a sound or I don't know. But then he was like, oh no, that's like kind of like saying dude,
Uh-huh.
but it's like "ka."
But in no, it's because we are going even
Yeah,
further now. The Spanglish mixing. No, it's like
it's
I
crazy.
love Puerto Rico. I've been in Puerto Rico once only in my life. I
Uh-huh.
love the food. I love their music, how happy they are. I have a couple of friends from Puerto Rico, but I swear, mi Fer, it's hard for me to understand people from Puerto Rico. Like, it's
Yeah.
so hard, it's so loud, and it's so fast. I get overwhelmed. And I gotta confess, my husband say that he feels the same from people from Mexico. Even with me, he's like, it's because you talk too fast, like slow down. And I'm like, what
Wow.
the heck are you talking about? Like, I work in media. I know how slow I need to talk because I've been doing this for so many years. But he claims that I speak very quick, and I know people like one of my uncles married someone from Peru, which who I love, Michesca, saludos. She's from Peru. I get so desperate because she speaks so slow, and my husband is like, that's the perfect rhythm that I can understand, and I'm like, no, pues this because that's English class, that's Spanish class for
Yeah.
pre-K because she speaks very slow, but that's the way they speak and they are. But you see how different we are even within the Latino community. Because if I talk to people from Peru, I fall asleep, and if I talk to people from Puerto Rico, I'm like, I feel like I can catch up. So
Right.
yes, language,
No,
pronunciation, and then culture. We're just trying to
it's
survive and
I
not mess
know.
it up and not offend anyone. Because yes, there have been situations when I say stuff that it seems I can tell that people get offended, but I don't mean to offend them. It's just that I'm translating in my brain and trying to find the right tone and
Hmm.
word for that moment. It's too hard. It's too hard.
It
I
is.
didn't
It
have to
is.
worry about this at all when I was just living in Mexico.
Ah, I know, right? We would just speak in Spanish and that's it.
Yeah.
And no, it's kind of crazy. And I mean, look what this story is about. Like his coworkers think that he ate
He was
his
eating a cat.
dead cat, dead deceased cat. Like, and it
And
was just like a language thing, you know? It's like
yeah.
the remains. Oh my god, it's because I try to imagine that, and it's like, yeah. Even
Yeah.
HR got involved. So yeah, don't feel bad. It's like I feel like everybody that speaks a second or third language says something at one point where it's like, what are you trying to say? Like, yeah, 100%.
But let's ask the audience if you guys are listening in any other podcast platforms or in YouTube. Let us know. Like, do you speak another language? Do you speak one language? If you are bilingual, like, have you been in those situations where you use words in the wrong way? Let us know. We read you in the comments. And if you are in this podcast, we are warning you. You are gonna hear those words all the time because we are trying our best, still translating and still figuring it out. So thank you for watching us and listening to Naked Questions. Remember to follow us on social media, where people can find us.
On Instagram, you can find us as Naked Questions, and you can find me as Find Me. I said fight me. No, like find me.
Ya estamos traumadas.
Yeah, no, oh my God. As Fernanda Lefon. What about you, Anita?
Rollos de Mujeres. And I think we're going to start opening our TikTok account for you guys to start following Naked Questions on TikTok too. So let's see how people attack us for our accent.
Over there.
in TikTok.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.